Okay, I am back. I am getting everything ready and going in to check the audio for everything. Plus, I have to go in and make sure that the Wonderful World of Weirdness on YouTube has the video going to the right playlist. And I just fixed that. Now, I could go in and give it a thumbnail and stuff, but I'm going to hold off on that. Well, actually, I could probably do it right here, couldn't I? No, it's already got it. So we are good to go on there. Just have the audio. Audio sounds good. Audio sounds good on Kick. Let me go check Twitch real quick. I have had a bad head cold for 2 days. Yesterday it started. So I don't know how well this is going to go. Audio sounded good on Twitch. I'm going to see if D Live's actually up and running today. So I was having some issues yesterday with it. I think I was able to get Debbie Perkins stream simulcast with it, but I don't know how it's working now. After that, I wasn't able to really get anything. There we go. All right, so it sounds good on D Live as well. Looks like we are ready to go. So here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Cut. I'll be your host. I am Roger Hanson here on the wonderful world of weirdness. Now, before we get started, I do want to explain a little bit to everybody about what The Cut is. Now, The Cut is basically things that I have come up with throughout the time that I've been doing my research that really doesn't fit into any categories when it comes to like paranormal or esoteric or anything of that nature. Also, I want to point out too that it has to also do with things that are basically not mentioned when it comes to history and things of that nature. Things that have basically been cut. Things that we don't hear about. That is one of the things that I just recently put in because of the 15-minute videos that I've been putting out from back whenever I first started doing all of this until now. Now, those are still streaming, but these are the newer and updated live streams that I've started doing. And I wanted to do that because I I didn't really have the best equipment when I first started streaming, so I had to learn how to do things the hard way. So that's the reason why the 15-minute videos that you watch kind of have problems. It's because it took time for me to actually be able to do stuff like this, like actually come in and stream. I was one of those people who learned the hard way, you know what I mean? So just keep that in mind if you go to watch those streams. I forgot to go and check my audio and stuff like that on Rumble as well, but that's fine. I can do it while the show's going on. Now, before I get started, I do want to tell everybody that we are streaming on Rumble, YouTube, D Live, Kick, and Twitch. I was streaming on X, but I decided to give up the X Pro subscription, and it just wasn't really doing anything. You know what I mean? I've had that account for years, and it's been the same all the time since I've started it until now. It really didn't do nothing for me when it comes to uh, well, reach was fine to a certain extent, but it didn't help with like subscribers or anything of that nature. So With that being said, I am going to go ahead and get the topics going. Also, hold up. Now, before I do the topics, I want to mention too that we are on Teams. I am on Teams at Live with Roger Hansen, as well as on Discord. The Wonderful World of Weirdness is on Discord there too. If you guys want to check us out there, kind of give us some support in Discord, make messages on the kind of stuff that you'd like to hear about, or even come on the stream and be a part of it. It's up to you. So, with that finally being said, let me go ahead and get into the topics. Now, this has to do with something that I called heirs to the throne. Now, in the early 18th century in Europe, it was a period that was marked with profound political complexities and personal tragedies within royal families, shaping the destiny of great powers such as France and the Holy Roman Empire. Among the most notable monarchs of this era was King Louis XV of France and Charles VI, Holy Roman Empire. Both rulers inherited thrones shadowed by loss and uncertainty, as smallpox claimed the lives of close family members, threatening the continuity of their dynasties. Their experiences highlight the inseparable connection between health crisis and dynastic politics in early modern Europe. Louis XV's ascension to the French throne was nothing short of miraculous, given the dire circumstances of his early childhood. Born as the great-grandson of King Louis XIV, whose reign was among the longest and most powerful in European history, young Louis was poised to inherit a vast and influential kingdom. Yet tragedy struck his family with overwhelming force. In the winter of the early 18th century, a devastating outbreak of smallpox swept through the French royal court. His parents, Louis, Duke of Burgundy, and Marie Adelaide of Savoy, both contracted the disease and died within days of each other. To compound the grief, Louis's elder brother had succumbed to the same illness the year before. These deaths left the young Louis as the last surviving male heir of the Bourbon line. This abrupt shift of fortune left the French monarchy in a precarious state. The royal family, the court, and the wider realm understood that the future of the dynasty rested entirely on this vulnerable child. As the new heir, Louis was subjected to intense scrutiny and care, but also to pressures typical of a monarchy desperately seeking stability. One significant figure in guiding the young king was his uncle, the Duke of Orleans, who played an influential role in the royal court's effort to secure the succession. It was common practice in royal households for heirs to be encouraged, even pressured, to produce offspring as soon as they were physically capable, since the survival of the dynasty depended on clear and numerous heirs. In Louis's case, his uncle actively pushed him towards sexual activities at a young age, emphasizing the urgency of producing an heir to ensure the Bourbon dynasty's con- continuation. This pressure was not merely personal but deeply political. The monarchy's legitimacy and the kingdom's stability were at stake. Louis XV's early sexual experiences, influenced by this dynastic imperative, laid the foundation for his later reputation as a monarch with numerous romantic liaisons and mistresses. While initially driven by political necessity, his relationships eventually became a hallmark of his reign. Despite the controversies and court gossip, these efforts did result in legitimate heirs who would carry forward the Bourbon legacy. Across the European continent, Charles VI faced a parallel but distinct set of challenges. A scion of the illustrious Habsburg dynasty, Charles' path to the throne was shaped by the untimely death of his elder brother, Joseph I. Joseph had ascended as Holy Roman Emperor, but died prematurely due to smallpox, which also took his male heirs at a young age. This left the imperial crown of Habsburg hereditary. This left the imperial crown and Habsburg hereditary lands without a direct male successor, propelling Charles into power. Unlike Louis XV, Charles' youth was marked by relatively familial stability. His parents, Leopold I and Eleanor Magdalene of Neuburg, both lived well into his adulthood, providing a supportive environment. Nevertheless, Charles's reign became dominated by anxiety over producing a male heir. For many years, his wife, Elizabeth Christine, bore children, but none were surviving sons. The pressure to secure the succession was immense, with the vast and multi-ethnic Habsburg territories hanging in the balance. The birth of his daughter, Maria Theresa, was both a cause for celebration and concern. While a welcome addition to the family, prevailing succession laws in many parts of Europe favored male heirs, leaving her claim precarious. In response, Charles promulgated the Pragmatic Sanction, a legal edict that allowed his daughter to inherit his land and titles. An unprecedented move aimed at preserving the Habsburg domains intact. This decree would later trigger diplomatic disputes and military conflicts, including the War of the Austrian Succession. But it demonstrated Charles's determination to protect his dynasty's future. The devastating effects of smallpox on both royal families royal hold up the devastating effects of smallpox on both royal families illustrates the vulnerability of even the most powerful to the ravages of disease. Smallpox was one of the deadliest illnesses of the period, characterized by fever, painful pustules, and often death. Its outbreaks could decimate entire courts and armies. The royal families were no exception. The losses suffered by Louis XV's family were among the most dramatic examples of its no, the loss suffered by Louis XV's family were among the most dramatic examples of its impact, altering the course of French history by catapulting a young boy onto the throne. The profound fear of smallpox and its destructive potential spurred a gradual shift toward medical innovation in Europe. Variolation, an early form of inoculation, began to gain cautious acceptance as a preventative measure. This practice involved deliberately exposing a healthy individual to material from smallpox sores to induce a milder form of the disease, thereby conferring immunity. While risky, it was often preferable to facing natural infection. The death in the French royal family played a significant role in increasing interest in variolation, although widespread acceptance would come only gradually and would be superseded by vaccination in the late 18th century. In the Austrian court, Charles XV's reign also saw an increased awareness of health and succession issues, although medical advancements were slower to take hold. The fragile nature of dynastic continuity in such a vast empire underscored the importance of securing heirs, whether through medical means or legal reforms. The personal lives of both monarchs were deeply intertwined with their political duties. Louis XV's early sexual initiation, driven by dynastic urgency, set the tone for a reign marked by both political challenges and scandalous romances. His efforts to produce legitimate heirs reflected the intense pressure placed upon him from childhood. Meanwhile, Charles XV's legal strategies to safeguard his daughter's succession reflected a pragmatic response to the demographic realities imposed by disease and morality. The intertwined narratives of Louis XV and Charles VI provide valuable insights into the ways health crises shape European history. Their experiences reveal how the pressures of succession influence personal behavior, court politics, and international relations. The legacy of smallpox in their families served as a catalyst for medical progress, transforming approaches to disease prevention and influencing the future of public health. The story of these monarchs underscore the fragility of dynastic rule in an era before modern medicine. The premature deaths of heirs and consorts created uncertainty that could destabilize entire realms. In this context, the efforts to secure living heirs, whether through early sexual guidance, legal decrees, or medical interventions, were not mere family matters, but critical state concerns. The lives of Louis XV and Charles VI were shaped profoundly by the shadow of smallpox and the urgent need to preserve their dynasties. Their struggles reflect broader themes of vulnerability, duty, and resilience within European monarchy during a pivotal period. The political and personal challenges they faced continue to offer a compelling window into the complexities of power, health, and succession in the early 18th century Europe. The 17th century in Central and Eastern Europe was a time of shifting alliances, competing empires, and ideological warfare between rival faiths and dynasties. Among many figures who attempted to navigate this volatile landscape was Georgy II Rákóczi, a prince of Transylvania, born into a dynasty that had become synonymous with religious resistance and political maneuvering. Georgy II inherited not only his father's throne, but also his ambitions. Yet his reign would come to be defined less by consolidation and security than by overreach, political miscalculation, and ultimately downfall. His ill-fated campaign into the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth would become a cautionary tale of a regional leader who misunderstood the balance of power and placed his principality on a collision course with disaster. Transylvania in the early modern era was a principality tucked into the Carpathian Mountains, surrounded by more powerful entities, including the Ottoman Empire, the Habsburg monarchy, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Though formerly a vassal of the Ottoman Sultan, Transylvania had for generations acted with a high degree of independence, particularly under the leadership of the Rákóczi family. The Rákóczis, known for their Calvinist faith, were champions of Ottoman suzerainty, were champions of the Rákóczis, known for their Calvinist faith, were champions of Protestant liberties in an era dominated by Catholic expansion and Ottoman suzerainty. Suzerainty. The principality served as a haven for religious refugees and became a bulwark of Protestant or a bulwark of Protestant influence in a region caught between conflicting worlds. So the principality served as a haven for religious refugees and became a bulwark of Protestant influence in a region caught between conflicting worlds. Georgy II was the son of Georgy I Rákóczi, a ruler who had managed to maintain Transylvania's relative stability through skillful diplomacy and a cautious approach to warfare. When Georgy I died, his son inherited the princely titles along with a kingdom that was strong but vulnerable. The young prince confided in The young prince, confident and determined, set his sights on expanding Transylvania's role in regional politics. His ultimate ambition was to secure a crown beyond his inherited domain, and the unstable conditions in Poland seemed to offer a perfect opportunity. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in the mid-17th century was reeling from a series of catastrophes. It had suffered repeated military defeat, internal rebellions, and foreign invasions. Khmelnytsky, the Khmelnytsky uprising had shaken the Commonwealth's eastern territories, while Swedish armies under their ambitious king had invaded, taking control of much of Poland during the period known as the Deluge. Amid this chaos, Georgy II was the possibility. No, with amid this chaos, Georgy II saw the possibility of expanding his influence northward and perhaps even claiming the Polish crown itself. He believed that the Swedish king's invasion had created a power vacuum that he could fill with Transylvanian troops and the support of disaffected Polish nobles. Driven by these ambitions, Georgy II entered into an alliance with the Swedish king and also attempted to coordinate with the Cossacks of Ukraine. He assembled a sizable army composed of Transylvanian soldiers, hired mercenaries, and Cossack elites. With confidence and a sense of destiny, he marched northward into Polish territory without seeking prior approval from the Ottoman court. This decision would prove disastrous. The initial phase of the campaign brought some success. His troops captured towns and gained ground, meeting little resistance at first. However, these early victories quickly turned into a series of missteps. Coordination with the Swedish forces proved difficult, and mistrust between the allies began to grow. Polish forces began regrouping and local resistance hardened. Most damaging of all was the reaction from the Ottoman Empire. Though nominally a vassal of the Ottomans, Georgy II had acted independently, violating the terms of Transylvania's protected status. The Ottoman court viewed his invasion of Poland as a breach of loyalty and a direct challenge to its authority in the region. As the Polish-Lithuanian forces began to recover and received reinforcements from their allies, including the Russian Tsardom and Crimean Tatars, Georgy's army found himself overwhelmed. His forces suffered a string of defeats, and the dream of seizing the Polish crown vanished. The campaign degenerated into a long and humiliating retreat. Many of his soldiers were killed or captured, and the surviving forces returned home, demoralized and discredited. This defeat had grave consequences for Transylvania. The Ottomans, angered by Georgy's betrayal, no longer trusted him as their vassal. They moved quickly to punish his insubordination by supporting a rival claimant to the Transylvanian throne. A period of civil conflict ensued as internal factions within the principality split between loyalty to the Rakogzi line and those who sought Ottoman favor by endorsing a replacement. Georgy II attempted to reassert his position through negotiation and military force, but his prestige had been shattered. The once confident prince now faced a principality of disarray and overlord, external overlord ready to remove him. Though Georgy managed to regain temporary control of his court, his authority was never fully restored. The principality's independence had been irreparable, irreparably damaged. The principality's independence had been irreparably damaged. The Ottomans began to intervene more directly in Transylvanian affairs, weakening its autonomy and setting the stage for further occupation and eventual domination by the Habsburgs. Georgy died a few years after the failed campaign, worn down by the consequences of his choices and the burdens of leadership during a time of collapse. The life and reign of Georgy II Rakogzi offers a compelling study of ambition meeting reality in the complex geopolitical terrain of early modern Eastern Europe. His desire to raise Transylvania to a higher level of influence, even to the point of ruling over Poland, was not entirely without precedent. Other Transylvanian princes had aspired to similar heights. However, Georgy overestimated his own strength and underestimated the loyalty of his allies, the resilience of the Polish-Lithuanian state, and the power of the Ottomans to discipline their vassals. His failure revealed the limitations faced by smaller principalities caught between empires, especially when those principalities act without clear diplomatic grounding. Religious identity also played a crucial role in Georgy's ambitions. As a Protestant ruler surrounded by Catholic and Muslim empires, he saw his reign as a continuation of the Protestant cause. The Polish crown, long associated with Catholicism, seemed to many Protestant leaders like a target ripe for the Reformation, especially given the internal instability of the Commonwealth at the time. His alliance with Sweden, another Protestant state, and with the Cossacks, who were Orthodox Christians, opposed to Polish domination, reflected a broader vision of a new regional order shaped by religious alliances. Yet this vision was ultimately unrealistic, as the conflicting interests of these groups prevented genuine cooperation, and the resulting alliances quickly fell apart under the pressure of war. Georgy's campaign also revealed the changing nature of warfare in the 17th century. Mercenary armies, unreliable allies, and logistical challenges plagued even the best planned campaigns. Without a disciplined and well supplied military force, even the most ambitious plans could not be sustained. The scorched earth tactics used by opposing armies, the lack of local support in occupied territories, and the absence of centralized coordination doomed the campaign from the start. The retreat became a rout, and the ensuing humiliation shaped Transylvania's politics for years to come. The personal legacy of Georgy II is therefore a mixed one. He was not without he was not without courage or vision. His dreams of elevating Transylvania were in line with the broader aspirations of his family and of many regional leaders who saw independence and greatness despite the pressure of empire. Yet his failure to respect the limits of his position, his misreading of diplomatic obligations, and his poor military judgment left Transylvania weaker and more dependent on outside powers. After his death, Transylvania continued its decline, increasingly influenced by Ottoman administrators and eventually absorbed into the growing sphere of the Habsburg monarchy. The principality's rule as a refuge for Prot- Protestantism faded. Pro- Protestantism faded, and its autonomy was slowly eroded. The Rákóczi family would later rise again under Ferenc Rákóczi during the early 18th century in an anti-Habsburg rebellion, but the golden age of Transylvania or Transylvanian independence was largely over. Much of the blame for that decline can be traced back to Georgy II's decisions and the disastrous consequences of his Polish campaign. In the grand tapestry of European history, Georgy II Rákóczi remains a poignant example of a leader whose bold vision was not matched by strategic wisdom. His life and reign stand as a lesson in the on the dangers or in the dangers of overestimating one's powers and acting without regard for the complex obligations that come with leadership. His story is one of noble ambition undone by the very forces he sought to master. And it reminds us that even the most passionate leaders must temper their dreams with prudence, especially in times of great uncertainty and change. The Order of the Golden Fleece was founded in the 15th century and became one of the most powerful and prestigious chivalric orders in European history. Its influence extended from the feudal courts of Burgundy to the sprawling realms of the Habsburg dynasty, where it served as a ceremonial and political tool across centuries of shifting power. The order was originally established by Philip the Good, Duke of Burgundy, in the early part of the century. And what began as a dynastic effort to enhance his prestige evolved into a significant institution that reflected the ideas of nobility, Christian unity, and dynastic loyalty. The history of this order is woven into the fabric of European aristo- no, aristocracy. The history of this order is woven into the fabric of European aristocracy, war, diplomacy, and spiritual culture. Philip the Good ruled over an extensive territory that stretched across much of what is now modern-day France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. Though not a king in title, Philip exercised kingly authority over his domains and was eager to legitimize his power in ways that resonated with the medieval ideas of Christian knighthood and courtly refinement. To this end, he created the Order of the Golden Fleece as both a symbol of virtue and a mechanism for ensuring loyalty among the great nobles of his lands. The establishment of the order coincided with his marriage to Isabella of Portugal, and though it was framed as a celebration of matrimony, its deeper political utility was clear from the outset. The name Golden Fleece evoked mythological and religious significance. In classical myth, the Golden Fleece was the object of the heroic quest undertaken by Jason and the Argonauts. It represented wealth, divine favor, and triumph over adversity. In a Christian context, it was interpreted symbolically as a reflection of sacrifice and purity. By invoking this name, Philip linked his order to timeless values and framed his court as a place of divine purpose and noble aspiration. From this foundation, the order was governed by strict statutes. Only noblemen of illustrious birth and proven merit could be admitted, and their public duty no and members were expected to maintain a high standard of conduct both in their public duties and private affairs. The number of knights was initially limited to 24, a deliberate choice that made admission exceptionally rare and prestigious. Members were required to swear solemn oaths to the order and to one another, committing themselves to ideas of loyalty, justice, and courage. The collar of the order became an instantly recognizable emblem among the elite. It consisted of a chain of fire steel links with flints and sparks, symbols of vigilance and divine inspiration. Hanging from this chain in was the pendant in the shape of a golden fleece. This collar was worn on solemn occasions and served as a visible declaration of membership and allegiance. Wearing it marked a man as someone trusted not only by the sovereign but by the collective community of Europe's most respected nobles. After the death of Charles the Bold, the last male heir of the Burgundian dukes. The Burgundian inheritances passed through marriage into the hands of the Habsburg family. From that moment onward, the Order of the Golden Fleece became tied to the destiny of one of Europe's most powerful dynasties. The Habsburgs, who ruled over territories ranging from Austria to Spain and the Americas, adopted the order as a dynastic institution. It would come to symbolize the continuity of Habsburg authority and serve as a critical tool in their diplomatic and ceremonial practices. Under Habsburg rule, the order grew in prominence. Its statues were preserved, but its membership expanded slightly to accommodate a larger network of influence or influential allies and nobles. In Spain, under the reign of Charles V, the order became deeply integrated into the Spanish monarchy. Charles, having inherited both the Burgundian lands and the Spanish throne, used the order to reward loyal service, forge alliances, and reinforce the moral authority of his rule. The order's connection to the Catholic faith was emphasized during this period, especially as it became a bulwark against the rising tide of Protestantism during the Reformation. Throughout the early modern period, memberships of the Order of the Golden Fleece was one of the highest honors that could be bestowed. It was often used to secure political loyalty or celebrate military and diplomatic achievements. Knights of the Order were frequently monarchs, dukes, generals, and ecclesiastical leaders whose service aligned with the interests of the Habsburg crown. The decision to induct a new knight was not taken lightly. It required unanimous approval from the existing members and usually involved considerable ceremony. Each new knight swore an oath before the Grand Master of the Order, who was always the ruling Habsburg monarch. This ceremony was followed by elaborate rituals, including the presentation of the collar and a religious mass. In addition to their personal obligations, Knights of the Order were also expected to assist one another and act as a brotherhood. The spirit of mutual defense and loyalty gave the order a cohesive or a cohesion that few other knightly institutions could match. The order's annual chapters or formal meetings were held in cathedrals and great halls across the Habsburg realms. These meetings included spiritual observances, processions, and discussions of political and social matters of importance to the realm. They also served to reinforce the idea that the knights were not merely individual actors, but part of a unified body representing the moral and political ideas of Christian monarchy. As the centuries passed, the Order of the Golden Fleece remained relevant even as the political landscape of Europe began to change. The rise of nation-states, constitutional monarchies, and republican movements pose challenges to the traditional aristocratic orders. To the traditional aristocratic orders. Yet the order adapted. It continued to function both as a ceremonial institution and a diplomatic tool. It provided legitimacy to newly crowned monarchs, cemented alliances between European powers, and preserved the vestiges of chivalry tradition in an increasingly modern world. With the division of the Habsburg Empire, the order eventually split into two branches. One was maintained by the Spanish monarchy and the other by the Austrian branch of the Habsburgs. Both branches claimed legitimacy from the original founding and continued to induct members based on their respective traditions. Despite the separation, both retained the symbolism, rituals, and foundational statutes of the Burgundian origin. In Spain, the order became closely associated with royal ceremonies and state functions. Kings conferred it upon foreign monarchs, nobles, and high-ranking officials who had shown extraordinary service to the Spanish state or its Catholic values. In Austria, the order remained a symbol of dynastic continuity and was used to maintain the ceremonial dignity of the Habsburg house, even after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The modern era has seen the order retain much of its historical prestige, even as its original political power has diminished in both Spain and Austria. The order is now largely honorary, but it continues to be a highly respected symbol of cultural heritage and aristocracy distinction. The Spanish king, who serves as the Grand Master of the Spanish branch, has conferred the order upon prominent international figures, including monarchs, heads of state, and cultural leaders. The Austrian branch, maintained by the descendants of the Habsburg family, similarly grants membership as a mark of distinguished service to Christian Europe and the legacy of the empire. What sets the Order of the Golden Fleece apart from other knightly orders is its unbroken link to the dynastic identity of the Habsburgs and its original function as a political instrument of Burgundy ambition. While other orders were created by kingdoms and states, the Golden Fleece was created by a dynasty and has remained in dynastic hands ever since. This has given it a particular character that resists the erosion of time and changing political regimes. Yeah, it's like I said before I started doing this. I have been having some issues with the head cold right now, so I apologize for anything that reflects that. Like if I cough or anything, I know I've been having a hard time reading stuff, but that's okay because I always have a hard time reading stuff. So I'm pretty sure if you guys watch this, you're used to that. I would like to thank anybody and everybody who has shown up and watched. I'd like to say thank you to Sir Valance on D Live. That would be DK Spiracy. Thanks for stopping in and saying hello, DK. Hello back to you. And I'm giving you a shout out on the stream. Um, After that, I would like to also say thanks for watching. Like I just said, if you like the stream, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love comments. Give us feedback. Tell us what you thought about the readings. If you had anything that you wanted to say, mention them in the comment section. Um, I really do enjoy hearing that. So if you want to, you can subscribe to us on Rumble, YouTube, D Live. We're also on Twitch as well as Kick. On Rumble, I am Roger. No, yeah, I am Roger Hanson at Infamous 1973. You can check me out there. I am also on YouTube at The Wonderful World of Weirdness. That's The Wonderful World of Weirdness at The Wonderful World of Weirdness. Now on D Live, I am Roger_Hanson. And on Kick, I believe I am Roger_Hanson 2. Now on Twitch, you can find me at Infamous 1969. You can find me also on Discord. I have my own Discord channel called The Wonderful World of Weirdness, where you can come in and have a conversation if you wish. I'm also on Teams and on Elements Matrix. You can find me at those two chats at Live with Roger Hanson. So, with that being said, I've let everybody know what my socials are, and I guess I'm done. I appreciate everybody for stopping in. I would usually try to make it at least up to an hour, but to be honest with you, I am sick as a dog. I don't even know if I want to come on and do tomorrow's episode, to be honest with you. I've been taking ibuprofen and Benadryl for the runny noses and the congestion. Hopefully that'll straighten everything out. So I appreciate it. You guys stopping in. And I'm gonna cut this short. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it.